What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, Nintendo decided to see if they could break the internet with an absolutely shocking announcement that has brought up a ton of questions when it comes to The Legend of Zelda, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Nintendo's financials as they did share how things have gone over the last quarter, and looks like the Switch is once again defying expectations. And we also had a certain Switch game that people have been very curious about leak out early, and the footage for it keeps getting pulled down all over the place. So if you guys enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're going to start today with the Epic Games Store because they've certainly been making a big push to try to take some part of the market away from Steam. And their main strategy has been to spend a lot of money and get a bunch of free games that they give out just to have you sign up and use their platform. Well, it turns out even after half a decade of attempting this, they're still not profitable. Now, this we can see posted up over on Eurogamer, where they said, as reported by The Verge, the exec was talking during the current Epic versus Google court case. Here, Allison said, while the Epic Game Store still isn't profitable, the company's focus remains on growth. Additionally, according to emails shared during the trial, Epic had hoped to claim half of all gaming revenue for PC games. That is quite the goal, because Valve just kind of sits around, just kind of hang out, just collect money. Now, they have to, of course, do upkeep on Steam and continue improving it, which is, the biggest thing that they have right now over the Epic Game Store is that Steam is just significantly more robust of a platform, and it's pretty much the default when it comes to buying PC games. And Epic, even attempting to just give away free games constantly, hasn't worked for them to just become profitable and have enough people visiting their platform and spending money. So they say the plan is still growth, which means they're probably still just going to be handing out games constantly going forward. And I think the big thing people would like to see is them just improve their platform so they can be a true competitor to Steam in the PC marketplace. Also, we did have an interesting collaboration that was announced for Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which is the mobile game. But with the latest collaboration is bringing up some speculation around maybe that Final Fantasy IX remake being a thing, because we can see this trailer that was shared over on Square Enix's channel. Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis and Final Fantasy IX crossover event. Now, this is starting November 9th. That'll be happening tomorrow. Black Waltz will appear as the boss, and you can look forward to some of the different Ever Crisis characters dressed in Final Fantasy IX character gear. Now, that rumor is still floating around out there about there being a Final Fantasy IX remake, and what better way to just continue that push for marketing and just reminding people that Final Fantasy IX is still a thing by having a crossover with one of their more popular mobile games, Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis. It's a fun idea, again, just having Final Fantasy IX stuff interact with Final Fantasy VII characters, but I would like to think that that Final Fantasy IX remake is still coming and that it could happen sometime in 2024. If it doesn't come out, at least give us the reveal, because I am very curious to see what this game looks like, how much of a remake they're pushing for, the visual style, even the gameplay, because will they touch the turn-based side of things, make it maybe more action-oriented like we've seen their push for some of the other ones? A lot of questions, but here's hoping we're getting closer to that reveal. Oh, and if you're someone who's thinking about heading out on Black Friday and braving the busy retail stores, well, it does appear that GameStop will be opening very, very early, as I believe they did last year as well. This was shared over on Twitter from CAG. Says GameStop will open at 5 a.m. on Black Friday unless the store's mall is closed at that time, in which case that GameStop would open when that mall opens, but also closed on Thanksgiving unless that store's mall is open that day. I think that's a good thing. I know for a while these retail stores were opening earlier and earlier and earlier, to the point where they had like sales associates working basically Thanksgiving dinner time. Like it was crazy stuff then. I think that still goes on now, but less so than before, as really the shift to online has kind of stopped that from happening anyway. But yeah, it appears GameStop open at 5 a.m. We'll wait to see what deals they have, as their circulars are still not out there. So maybe this week coming up, we'll see them. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and an absolutely shocking announcement that they released yesterday for The Legend Legend of Zelda series. We can see this posted up just over on their Nintendo account. They released it in Japanese, then also had it translated and released it in English. Starting off with, this is Miyamoto. All right. I have been working on the live action film of The Legend of Zelda for many years now with Avi Arad, who has produced many mega hit films, which, Avi Arad's come up. I know I've seen this a lot with Spider-Man fans after what happened with Spider-Man 3, and apparently them taking responsibility for Venom kind of being just pushed into that movie and making it not as good as it probably could have. But either way, they said, I have asked Avi-san to produce the film with me, and we have now officially started the development of the film with Nintendo itself heavily involved in the production. It will take time until its completion, but I hope you look forward to seeing it. There's also a press release over on Nintendo's site that I will link down below, where they say the film will be produced by Nintendo and Arad Productions and directed by Wes Ball. I believe Wes Ball is doing the Planet of the Apes movie, I think, coming up in 2024. Either way, the film will be co-financed by Nintendo and, get this, Sony Pictures Entertainment, with more than 50% financed by Nintendo. The theatrical distribution of the film will be done worldwide by Sony Pictures Entertainment. By producing visual contents of Nintendo IP by itself, Nintendo is creating new opportunities to have people from around the world to access the world of entertainment which Nintendo has built through different means apart from its dedicated game consoles. And I've mentioned this before, Nintendo is moving more and more to just being an entertainment company, not just a video game company. I mean, think about Miyamoto. While, of course, he worked on Pikmin 4 with developers at Nintendo, he's really been involved with stuff just outside of games, whether it's the movies or with the theme parks. And now we see The Legend of Zelda making its debut on the big screen. This is going to be interesting because it's live action. Now, I know a lot of people were talking about the partnership all of a sudden between Nintendo and Sony, but it's Sony Pictures. It's not even PlayStation. So it makes sense that they would look around and say, okay, who wants to go ahead and help us distribute this? And Sony, of course, is going to jump at that opportunity. But the idea of it being live action, it brings up a lot of risk because, well, if it's an animated film, you don't have to deal with, for example, casting the likeness of the character. We went through a whole thing with just the voice of Mario being Chris Pratt. Now imagine when they announce who they're casting for Link or Zelda or Ganondorf. That is going to be a massive conversation online. And let's say the movie does really well. Is that now like the face of the Legend of Zelda series? Whoever you've casted for Link and Zelda, it's going to be very, very intriguing to see how they handle all this. But while I'm sure there's a lot of people who are nervous around this, I will at least say Miyamoto certainly proved himself with the Mario movie. While it wasn't this big Oscar award-winning film, I think a lot of the critics were harsh on it in the sense that it's a video game movie and that's kind of it. And I'm fine with that. So if the Legend of Zelda movie ends up just being true to the source material and it's just a video game movie, yeah, I think that'll be a lot of fun to go and see. I do also wonder if the live action push is because this would be a more mature movie compared to the Super Mario Brothers movie, which would make sense for kind of the Zelda universe, but also which iteration of Link will it be? What will like kind of the style of it? So many questions. So it'll be very interesting to see how this continues to evolve as more and more information is dropped, especially when we get our first look at maybe something on scene, whether or on set, maybe somebody gets a picture while they're filming, or Nintendo or Sony just kind of releases something out there to give us our first look at how the Legend of Zelda series is going to adapt to a live action film. So very, very interesting stuff there. Seems like it's been a while, couple of years before this comes out, but we'll keep an eye on it. Next up, let's talk about an interesting Switch game that has leaked out a bit early, and that's Hogwarts Legacy. This game is coming out next week, and there's a lot of questions around how this game is going to perform on the Switch because it is a larger game and would probably fall under that impossible ports category, maybe next to like a Witcher 3. If you played it on the Xbox or the PlayStation or on PC, you kind of know what I'm talking about because it is a larger open world. You can fly around. There's a lot of all kinds of different effects and spells and that sort of thing. So it being adapted to the Switch, especially when you think of it as a handheld game, is something that people still, I think, need to see to believe. But that actually happened the other day as footage did get out there, and we can see VGC kind of caught bits and pieces of this. However, there is an issue here, as this footage appears to keep getting pulled down. Now, they say Tal Helfgott said that he managed to buy the game ahead of its official release, showing a photo of its box as proof. And according to this user, some of the game has to be downloaded, but because he has it early, it's not yet possible to do this. He's instead taken to the pre-order page for the game on the Switch eShop. However, despite this, you can still play some of the game. So it's kind of that situation where you get to a certain part in the game, I assume, and it's like, okay, now you have to stop and download more of the information or the files. But the interesting thing was, as they were showing it off, and people have been mirroring the video all over the place, and it keeps getting pulled down, so I assume publishers behind that, copywriting it, sure. But what they showed looked decent. Like, it wasn't, oh wow, this is struggling, or this looks really bad. It was filmed off screen though, so it wasn't direct capture footage. They just kind of held the Switch in handheld mode and was showing it off, and there were some cinematics that were shown as well as them just kind of running around and playing the game. But for the most part, it looked all right. I will be getting this game, I feel like, to check it out. I played through it on the PlayStation, and it was fine. It was a fine game, but I think it is still, again, seeing a game like this as an impossible port and just see how the Switch can run it is intriguing enough. But I'm sure, of course, we'll get the Digital Foundry look, and that'll really tell us exactly how this game is running and what they cut back on to get it on the Switch. Next up, let's talk about Nintendo's financial report that they released for this previous fiscal year. That ends September 30th, so that would cover July, August, and September. Of course, now in the new fiscal year that will cover the holiday season. We'll find out about that, I believe, in the first half of February 2024, which that would then include the Super Mario Bros. Wonder sales, just in case you're wondering where exactly that is. But for now, we can head over to the Nintendo IR page for Investors Relations. And we can start with the sales for the Switch itself, now topping 132.46 million units. And then look at the software. Wow, 1.13 billion units of software is incredibly impressive. Again, this is the first time Nintendo has released a system that's been able to climb past that 1 billion mark for software, and it does not look like it's slowing down at all. Now, the interesting thing here, okay, about the sales for the Switch, technically for this last quarter, 2.93 million Switch systems sold, and this would complete their first half of the fiscal year at 6.84 million, which is an increase of 2.4% from last fiscal year. So technically, Nintendo is trending upwards with the Switch, just completely bucking any expectations people have for the system. I mean, it just keeps on going. But speaking of which, let's talk about some of the games over on install base for them. They have them listed here, as well as the differences, as in what each game sold in this previous quarter. And wouldn't you know it, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe sold 1.55 million copies, coming up to 57 million. Then we have Animal Crossing there at 43.38, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at 32.44, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 31.15 million, Super Mario Odyssey at 26.95, Sword and Shield at 26 million, Scarlet and Violet at 23.23 million, Super Mario Party 19.66 million. It looks like that will most likely cross the 20 million mark, and since it's part of Black Friday deals for Nintendo, probably the next time we get that financial report. Then we have Tears of the Kingdom. Okay, so this is an interesting one. 19.5 million, which means it sold just under 1 million copies this last quarter, 990,000. That felt disappointing, and a lot of people kind of looked at this and said, wow, those sales slowed. I think really what happened here, Nintendo just shipped a lot of copies for Tears of the Kingdom. 18.5 million sold in the first, month and a half. I think they were still working through that initial allotment, and in this case, another million or so sold throughout this quarter as they replenish stock. Oh, and I do want to point out Pikmin 4, 2.61 million. It's now the best-selling Pikmin game ever, and I think that's going to keep rolling along. 4 to 5 million easy, I think, for Pikmin 4 before it's all said and done. But coming back to Tears of the Kingdom, if it can outsell Breath of the Wild, it would have to pick up incredibly well to be able to catch Breath of the Wild, because Breath of the Wild still sold 500,000 copies this past quarter. So unless we're talking about Tears of the Kingdom outselling Breath of the Wild in 2030, it needs to pick up some sales momentum here. And remember, Breath of the Wild is part of Nintendo's Black Friday deals, so that will probably, I think, come in above expectations for sales, considering it launched alongside of the Switch back in 2017, and that keeps on selling. So I think, really looking at it though, Tears of the Kingdom, obvious success for Nintendo. It's going to come in over 20 million copies sold by the next time we hear about numbers in February at a $70 price point. But I don't think it's going to eclipse Breath of the Wild, at least not anytime soon. But still, these are two really well-selling games, and it just shows how far the Legend of Zelda series has come since really even the Wii and the GameCube. It was not touching anywhere near these numbers, and we're to the point where Nintendo is going to be pushing a whole movie around it. So either way, impressive stuff there, and the Switch just keeps on rolling. It has a chance to actually trend upwards depending on how things go with this holiday season. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Game Awards, as we now know when the nominees for Game of the Year will be revealed. We can see this posted up over on Twitter, where they say Monday, the Game Awards nominees will be announced. So Monday, November 13th, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, join Jeff Keighley for the global live stream, where apparently they will have more than 30 categories. Wow, okay. Well, all eyes will certainly be on the Game of the Year nominations. Remember, there are 6 slots, and they're easily, I would say, twice the number of that in terms of games that could be nominated. I think most people look at The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3. Those are probably 2 locks, 2 games that are certainly safe to take up 2 of the 6 spots. But from there, it's anyone's guess. I mean, most people are probably looking at the frontrunners like Super Mario Bros. Wonder, Spider-Man 2. I would say Alan Wake 2 at this point, but then it's like, is it Starfield? Is it Resident Evil 4? Is it Final Fantasy 16? I mean, that's kind of where we are right now. There's just so many good games that happen in 2023. It's going to be very intriguing to see if there is a big game that just kind of gets left out, because there kind of has to be. So very, very interesting stuff, and I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on it and going over it. And I also have a poll based on their Game of the Year nominations to see what everyone wants to pick to win. And remember, as we get into the second half of November, we'll be having our Game of the Year madness here kicking off. I wanted to wait until Super Mario RPG came out just to give it a shot to see if it could get in there. Otherwise, though, there are going to be some games even left out of that, because just getting the top 32 games, it's like, wow, there are some good games that just can't make the cut because there are so many of them. So good luck trying to get it down to 6. We'll see what they come up with next Monday. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're taking a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, if you game on PC, have you ever bought a game on the Epic Games Store? 72% say no. Hey, 28% say yes. You know, maybe that's a little more than I was expecting, although a lot of people in the comments were saying, I didn't buy anything, but I signed in and I claimed one of the free games, which I guess technically from Epic's standpoint, that's what they're trying to get you to do, is just use their platform, sign up for an account. They're in that user acquisition phase right now, and it's taking a lot for them to just pull your interest at all away from Steam, because you're also going to split your library, and that is a big deal for PC gamers. It's just easier for them to keep everything on Steam, and I mean, the Epic Game Store is still missing many features that Steam just has now, so it's an uphill battle certainly for Epic, but it seems like they have no plans of slowing down, as they are just looking to grow overall with user acquisition. So yeah, look out for more free games. Might as well claim them if they're just going to give them out. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from the Infinity Master, who says, using AI to do bug testing for games before release would be the best usage for AI in gaming. There are definitely use cases for AI just outright when it comes to assisting for different positions and different jobs within gaming, like bug testing. Sure, I mean, really, we see a lot of games come out now and have all kinds of issues that need to be patched after the fact. And if AI can just maybe help with quality assurance, then yeah, that to me would be a positive addition to game development. The only issue is people are concerned that AI would grow to such a level that it would just eliminate all QA positions in general, and the executives, for example, at the top of some of these companies would just rely completely on AI because, well, they don't have to pay AI a salary, they don't have to provide AI benefits, and you get the idea there with capitalism. But it's a slippery slope. I'd like to see AI help game development when it comes to just higher quality releases, as well as just speed up the development process, but it's something they have to be mindful of. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. Was the shocking announcement from Nintendo. Were you surprised to hear that The Legend of Zelda would be getting a live action movie? And how do you think it's gonna turn out? And then also, what about Nintendo's financials they revealed, with the Switch actually trending upwards from last year? And the Game Awards. Next week, we'll see the nominations. What do you think gets left out? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.